Good evening, everyone. Let me make sure all the settings are correct. Give me just a second here. We need to make sure the audio is going through the right area. I want the speaker to be somewhere else, and I need to change that in Windows. Athena is to my side here and wants to say hello to everyone. So be sure to say hi to Athena. All right, give me a second and we'll make sure everything is working the way it's supposed to be. So we're going to move this over here. We're going to go over here and just make sure I have sound coming through my head. All right, looks like we're good. All right. Before we begin, let's do some introductions. I am the Mad Computer Scientist. On this channel, I discuss math, computer science, and technology topics that are of interest to me. Now, I haven't done that much recently because I've been busy, and even tomorrow I have to take a final for a class I haven't been doing very well in, but that's mostly because the class is compressed and I haven't had time to absorb any of the material. Basically, what you can learn from this is don't overextend yourself when learning new things, and make sure you know how you learn. Because I really should not have taken 3 8-week courses at the college level because, well, 2 of them weren't bad. The 3rd was just too much, and it just didn't work out. All right. So, with that out of the way, I would like you to remember to like, comment, and subscribe. If you subscribe, be sure to share this video out there. And make sure you hit the subscribe button as well. So this isn't Ask Me Almost Anything. I do have a link out there if you haven't seen it for people who want to come in. I may put it in the chat later, but honestly, this is still a small channel, and it's not that big a deal to have people come in or not. How do I get, oh, there we go. All right. So, tonight I saw something that I thought it might be fun to go over just to fill some time, because I have been rather busy and didn't have something to look at that wasn't having to do with data science generally or the other class. And I came across a video that is called Unlocking the Matrix, Exploring Terrence Howard's Teriology. So I don't know what they're going to say. It seems to be a New Age channel that is trying to basically defend him, but we'll find out together. Now, it's also fairly slow, so we're going to speed it up a little bit because they really need to speak more quickly in this podcast. And that could probably be said of me as well when I go through these. Give me just a second here. Where's the, there we go. We'll go to 1 1/4 for now, and then we're going to share the screen. And that would help more if I were on the right particular screen to do that. All right, share screen. All right, we've got sound shared. And there we go. All right, let's make sure this is working as well.
It's what people say, because Big Pharma wants to be on top.
Okay, there we go. All right, looks like everything's good to go. We need to go back to the, actually, I do want to cut out a couple of the video, couple of minutes, just because it's just not that interesting. I'll start about 20 minutes in, so there's only an hour of it for me to go through to reduce the amount of time it takes as well.
Fantastic project.
I agree. It's crucial to have role models who look to you, who look like you, who demonstrate that anything is possible. Like the guy who invented, you know, we say, oh, Thomas Edison invented the light bulb. But it was this African-American guy who literally had the concept for, you know, what was to become the light bulb. Like if it wasn't for him, there wouldn't have been a light bulb. And Thomas Edison gets the credit as if he invented it.
Right. And
but he didn't do all the hard work.
Right. And then they only give you the information that they want you to know, and they hide all the things that they don't want you to know, you know, and it's crazy, but this is the world that we're living in. So Terrence Howard was born in Chicago in 1969, and his early years weren't easy. His childhood was shaped by both Christianity and is giving him a diverse spiritual foundation, but it was also full of hardship.
And there's a specific moment from his childhood that really stands out. A traumatic experience involving injustice in the Muslim community. Mark, that moment seemed to be a turning point, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. And, like Terrence,
I
many
don't think this is true. Let's do some quick fact checking. Because I don't think Terrence Howard has any connection to Islam. Okay, apparently he does. I was wrong about that. Okay.
people have those turning points, and a lot of it involves religion. I think there should be a class action lawsuit against religions because they've caused a lot of harm to a lot of people. To this day, there are people that are committing genocide, and you know who we are talking about, in the name of their God. And it's been throughout the Bible, and it's been throughout history. It really was. The experience made Howard question not only divine justice, but the nature of reality itself. It set him on a lifelong quest to find answers that mainstream science couldn't provide.
And then
With all due respect, Terrence Howard needs to learn actual science before he can learn any of the answers science isn't providing. That's why he isn't going anywhere with what he says.
as he grew up, Terrence became fascinated with geometry. He started questioning some of the biggest scientific principles out there, like Einstein's theory of relativity.
Here's a direct quote from Terrence. If the universe is built on flawed assumptions, then our understanding of reality is inherently flawed. That's a bold statement, isn't it?
Absolutely.
No, it's not. It's a statement that could be made by anyone who doesn't really understand the material they're presented. And honestly, I think in Mr. Howard's case, it's a manic phase. I think a lot of this will go away once he's properly medicated.
Absolutely. But it's also a powerful reminder that progress often starts with questioning the status quo.
Totally. And Terrence Howard faced numerous challenges during his early life, many stemming from the difficult environment he grew up in and societal injustices he faced as a Black man in America.
Surviving in a difficult neighborhood, Howard emphasizes the challenge of, quote, surviving the Black neighborhood, unquote, highlighting the harsh realities he experienced. He recounts witnessing violence, including shootings and stabbings, probably in the South Side they talk about being in Chicago, and reveals that he himself was both shot and stabbed. This paints a picture of a childhood marked by danger and hardship.
Struggling with a sense of self and purpose, and can't blame him, growing up in a disadvantaged environment, which many Black men grew up in that kind of environment, Howard wrestled with finding his own identity and purpose, particularly.
All right, give me a second. It is possible we are on the wrong mic because StreamYard likes to play around with my settings. Yes, we are. All right, that should be better.
Witnessing family members resort to nefarious things for survival. He questions how to maintain morality amidst a world riddled with darkness and immorality, alluding to the internal conflict of navigating right and wrong within a challenged environment.
These challenges, while significant, seem to have fueled Howard's determination to break free from the limitations imposed upon him by his
By things like basic math.
environment and societal structures. His experiences with poverty, violence, and racism, coupled with his unwavering curiosity and thirst for knowledge, seem to have propelled him toward his unique path of scientific exploration and artistic expression.
That's why I always believe that for every bad, quote unquote, things that happen to us, something good happens in return. We have to feel the fire as part of alchemy. We have to face pain and challenges. That lights up a fire underneath us to want to grow, learn, and do something different in the world. And it seems like Terrence has one of the many individuals.
I think it's their script, and I don't think they've really mastered how to not sound like they're reading off of something. But this is an easy mistake to make, and I'm not going to pick on them. It also sounds like, to me at least, they don't really believe what they're saying.
Of the world that have gone through that and then made lemon out of lemonade or lemonade out of lemons. So Terrence Howard's religious upbringing had a profound impact on his scientific pursuits. Raised in a Christian household with Baptist and Methodist influences, he later embraced Islam through his father.
And just imagine if he had any inkling of a scientific education or passed his basic math courses, we might have never have gotten that wonderful math proof that tells us the Anunnaki sky people gave us the wrong math and 1 × 1 = 2. Now, I can't fault Terrence Howard for his creativity, but he really needs to learn how to do a math proof and learn basic math.
Teaching. This exposure to multiple religious perspectives seemed to have fueled his desire to seek truth and challenge established dogma, which
Too bad he didn't understand why things are done that way. There's no secret cabal that's telling people the wrong arithmetic to keep us down. There just isn't. Humans came up with math. I'm sorry.
ultimately led him to question traditional scientific theories.
Experiencing injustice within his religious communities triggered his skepticism. A pivotal moment occurred when a fellow Muslim was harshly punished for an offense, prompting Howard to question the concept of divine justice, particularly the idea of eternal damnation in Christianity. This led him to scrutinize religious doctrine and seek a deeper understanding of truth beyond religious frameworks.
Biblical passages sparked his interest in geometry and cosmology. Howard recalls being intrigued by biblical descriptions.
Is that why he thinks pi is a whole number? I mean, you can get a value of 3 for pi from the Bible, but I never took that too seriously because I think they're just rounding off, and I don't think they were trying to give us an exact value for pi.
Of the earth shape and the universe structure. Passages referencing the earth being suspended as a circle and angles as the four corners of the earth sparked his curiosity about geometry, pushing him to explore scientific explanation of this concept. And if you think about it, geometry, I mean,
Next time, guys, don't use ChatGPT to write your scripts.
these geometric shapes that literally form everything from molecules to you name it, and it's the basics of it all.
Howard sees his scientific pursuit as a form of spiritual practice. He connects his desire to make way for life, quote unquote, to his understanding of universal structure and his pursuit of scientific truth. This aligns.
Wait, I think that was the most unintentional and most honest thing she said. His pursuit of pseudoscientific truth. Lady, it is pseudoscientific, which means it's not truth. Maybe you should have looked up that word before you used it.
Aligns with his upbringing, where seeking truth and living a morally upright life were core values.
While Howard's journey into science began with questioning religious doctrines, it's crucial to note that he doesn't see science and spirituality as separate entities. He believes that quantum physics provides a framework for understanding the spiritual realm, suggesting that,
as do many people who do not understand quantum physics and want to listen to someone like Deepak Chopra. No, there's nothing spiritual about quantum physics. It's just hard to understand. And people need to learn that just because someone says something in a way that they don't understand, it doesn't necessarily mean they're smart. I can say a lot of things in a way people don't understand. It may be in my case that I understand topics like computer science better than people who've never studied it. But that doesn't necessarily mean I'm smart, nor does it mean I'm correct. I don't have the same gift Mr. Howard does for throwing meaningless words together and getting people who don't have enough of an education to think he sounds smart when he really isn't.
the two are interconnected. His scientific pursuits, particularly his emphasis of harmony and balance in his theories, could be seen as an extension of his desire for a deeper place within it, which initially stemmed from his religious upbringing.
Terrence Howard's scientific pursuits revolved around his self-developed concept of teleology, which he describes as a system of...
And it's always humble to name a math you invented after yourself. Certainly George Boole named the variable type after himself, even though George Boole was dead by the time that came about.
Understanding and manipulating the fundamental building blocks of the universe. This concept stems from his exploration of various scientific ideas and his personal observations of natural phenomena. Here are the specific scientific concepts he explored and developed.
Redefining fundamental geometry. So Howard challenges the traditional notion of the Platonic solids as the fundamental shape of the universe.
Who the hell believes that? I'm sorry, but no one believes that. The Platonic solids are not the basis of anything other than the Platonic solids.
Proposes that these shapes are merely approximations derived from the more fundamental structures of the flower of life.
They are absolutely not. They are idealized shapes that cannot actually exist.
a geometric pattern composed of overlapping circles. He argues that by opening the flower of life based on universal ratio, a new set of fundamental shapes emerges, which
And just for the record, that actually doesn't mean anything.
he calls the Tetraion, Hunan, Alban, and others. These shapes are, according to Howard, more accurately
And he also thinks he's patented these shapes, which is something you cannot do.
represents the building blocks of the universe.
This is the special 256 subscriber stream. I actually do intend to invite people in on this one. Although I do have something I have to do tomorrow, but I'll put the link out there pretty shortly. And since we're at the 15-minute mark, I'd like to remind everyone to like, comment, and subscribe.
Universe.
Wave conjugations and the linchpin, quote unquote. Building upon his redefinition of fundamental geometry, Howard introduces the concept of wave conjugations, quote unquote, which describe the interactions and relationships between his proposed fundamental shapes. He emphasizes the role of the quote unquote linchpin, a pentagonal shape derived from his Tetraion model, as a crucial element in these interactions. He believes that understanding these wave conjugations can unlock
Wait, isn't the linchpin hexagonal?
the secrets of the universe and lead to groundbreaking technological advancements.
Well, it's, if you really
Yes, a lot of people with mental illnesses do believe they have come up with groundbreaking technology.
think about it, and you break down an atom or a proton, neutron, and all these
You get a lot of energy, and it can either be used to heat water or to destroy things.
pieces of the puzzle, the things that could be created by learning how to manipulate these substances, these things are beyond
Usually a lot of rubble if not done properly.
our human understanding. But we've been given these very limiting formulas to work with and expect us to just continue to be dumb or in the box. And there's just so much more. Tangential flight. Howard applies his understanding of wave conjunction.
Yeah, I'm not impressed with your ChatGPT script because Howard doesn't know what tangential flight means, and I don't either. He is either referring to the trigonometric function or he's referring to a tangent line, and none of that makes sense.
And the linchpin to develop a new form of flight he calls tangible flight. This involves using multiple propellers strategically placed around a central point, inspired by the arrangement of linchpins in his geometric models. He claims his technology allows for flight around an object center of mass, enabling precise maneuverability and heavy
Yes, I've heard these claims from him. They weren't convincing from him either.
lifting capabilities. Like we were thinking, how the pyramids were built. If people think that the pyramids were built by man, pushing and tugging and pulling on ropes, going as high as they did, they're really not well informed.
Yeah.
So these things that he's tapped into are things that was used by the prior civilizations.
And I don't think people understand the degree of precision that is involved with the pyramids and stuff. That each rock, each
Oh, hold on. I forgot to do something. Give me a second here. This is probably the only time I'm going to do this in a long while, but give me a second here. I'm sorry you hear things in the background. And give me a second to just pin things if anyone wants to come in, which it's fine if they don't.
granite piece is very unique. It interlocks with the other piece that goes in. It's not like they mass produce, like, remember.
And they joined together to form Voltron? I didn't understand any of that, and I don't think you did either, lady.
We're hearing about the story of Moses and the people, children of Israel, and how Pharaoh told them that they could no longer use straw or something in there, and that they had to build the
They had to make bricks without straw as a punishment. Can you at least read the text?
Yeah, it was like, wait a second. They're not just manufacturing a cube of a bunch of cubes, like as if it was like some big oversized sugar cube. It was
Is she implying the pyramids were made out of bricks and not stone? Listen, there is no, modern precision in the pyramids. Yes, there was, advanced math for the time used in their construction, but no matter what people like Ben Van Kerkwick tell you, we have no evidence that the Egyptians had Turing machines.
A unique piece that was it fit in the puzzle that they were making, and that's not something that you could just
What?
build it and then place it
Yeah.
and stack it. It's not like you're just stacking Legos or something.
Yeah.
So projectile propulsion. Howard has developed a novel system for projectile propulsion that harnesses the explosive power of water instead of relying on traditional chemical propellants.
The explosive power of the water. What? I don't even know what she meant by that.
This technology utilizes an electrically overloaded capacitor to rapidly vaporize water, creating a plasma-like state that generates significant propulsive force. He posits that this method can achieve much higher speeds.
All right. So, an explosion goes out in all directions, not necessarily uniformly, but in all directions. In order to propel something, you want the force to be generally in a specific direction. There's a reason why rockets don't explode when they work properly. It's because they are designed to push the fuel out the back of the rocket, so the fuel pushing itself out of the back of the rocket pushes the rocket forward.
In distances and even conventional projectile weapons.
And people think that we have advanced. We've actually digressed. All these systems were around. If you look at these older buildings that they claim were built in the 1700s with all the horse and carriage and no power tools, we have to understand that we didn't build these things. These things were built by a different civilization altogether, which most likely used these kinds of things that Howard is talking about.
Yeah.
Howard, as an error correcting code inspired by.
Oh my God. Learn some computer science. The Howard comma is not an error correcting code.
By the discovery of error correcting codes in quantum physics. Howard proposes his own concept dubbed the Howard comma, which he believes acts as a harmonic and geometric correction across quantum fields. He suggests that this code can stabilize quantum states, enabling a breakthrough in faster than light communication data, storage, and even manipulation of space-time itself.
Challenge.
Yes, he believes these things. There are probably many people around the world who think they're Napoleon. It doesn't mean it's true.
Mathematical norms. Howard questions the conventional understanding of mathematical principles, like multiplication. And
that's because he doesn't understand the difference between a prescriptive definition and a descriptive definition. He is using a descriptive definition of multiplication and applying it to math. Unfortunately, when you're talking about a specific field, definitions like that are prescriptive, and one of Howard's biggest problems is he wants to define multiplication in terms of physics. Now let's see if we can find a good definition of multiplication as it applies to math. Give me a second here. All right. QMath is usually good enough for this. Multiplication is an operation that represents the basic idea of repeated addition of the same number. The numbers that are multiplied are called the factors, and the result that is obtained after the multiplication of two or more numbers is known as the product of those numbers. Note that it doesn't say there's any requirement for the number to get bigger.
The value of pi. He argues that the universe operates through division rather than multiplication, suggesting that current mathematical models are flawed in their representation of universal processes.
And I believe it was done on purpose.
There was a comment a few weeks ago on this channel about someone who said that math isn't black and white. Now, there are areas of math that are not black and white. And there are certainly areas of computer science that are not, even though computer science is really good at dealing with black and white things.
But the problem is, most of things in math really are black and white. It's not fuzzy logic. There is no budging on the value of pi. It's not a whole number.
Totally done on purpose to keep us limited, to keep us failing at every end. But those that control our world, the bloodline, know exactly what they've done. He also claims that pi is a whole number, contrary to its widely accepted irrational value. While these concepts stem from Howard's personal research and observations, they haven't been widely accepted within the
Wait, what?
scientific community. Nor will they. I mean, are the archaeologists, all the scientists,
Okay, what research has Terrence Howard done? To be fair, I've not done anything that would be considered research either. Maybe I'll get there at some point if I continue on my master's. But Terrence Howard has just spewed ridiculous things without any understanding of what they mean. It is possible he's just in a manic state. Someone with his background likely would suffer from some traumas just because of his upbringing, and he deserves our sympathy if that's the case. But there is no reason to believe anything he says.
they don't want the mold to be broken. They want to stay with what they've been teaching and taught, because there is somebody above on top of that pyramid controlling everything. They don't want us to
Oh my gosh. You've heard it here first, folks. I'm a shill for big algebra.
unravel the truth, kind of like the Bible. Let us come down and confuse their language. Mankind now have become like us. They worry. And it seems like every time we're getting to the verge of discovering, of growing, of evolving, they knock us back down.
I mean, he claims to have received patents, like we were saying before.
Yeah.
He actually does have patents. He just doesn't have as many as he says, and the patents don't really mean anything other than he's been granted patents. And the patents that actually have been granted are mostly for jewelry.
For several of his inventions, but the sources provided, they don't detail the specific patents or their validity. His ideas often clash with established scientific theories, leading to skepticism and criticism. Howard, however, remains steadfast in his belief that his approach to science can revolutionize various fields and unlock the truth.
So, all right, let's break this down.
What fields is it going to revolutionize? Okay, the problem with Terrence Howard revolutionizing fields is he has to be correct, and he just isn't. Now, some of the things he's saying are just meaningless phrases that shows he doesn't understand physics. Some of the things he's saying are flat out wrong. And a lot of the things he's saying just make me wonder, does he need lithium or some sort of medication, such as an antipsychotic?
Segment 1, Terrence Howard's journey into teriology. Howard's story is fascinating, starting with his religious upbringing. He was exposed to both Baptist, Methodist, and Christianity and Islam, which planted seeds for his lifelong quest for truth.
Absolutely, but a key turning point came when he was
And he took the wrong fork in the road.
just 13 years old. He witnessed violence within his Muslim community, which led him to questioning divine justice and the concept of eternal punishment. That doubt became the foundation for his pursuit of alternative answers.
He also had the unusual fascination with geometry, inspired by biblical references like Earth being a circle or angels standing at angels standing at the four corners of the earth. He began connecting spiritually with the physical structure of the universe.
And that curiosity eventually turned into a rejection of traditional science. He critiques theories like string theory and relativity, claiming they lack real-world applications. Instead, he studied fringe scientists like Schauberger and Maxwell, who emphasized geometry.
Maxwell was a fringe scientist? What? I'm pretty sure Maxwell's equations are pretty important to physics there, lady. But don't tell anyone they have anything to do with magnets, though. Especially not a certain tapioca weasel.
And energy.
The building blocks of teriology.
Let's talk about the core of teriology. Howard's proposed alternative to the Platonic solids as the universe's building blocks. He claims that
The Platonic solids are not the universe's building blocks. Oh my gosh. The Platonic solids, first of all, are abstractions. Secondly, although we have shapes that resemble the Platonic solids, I have quite a few of them in my dice pouch for Dungeons and Dragons here. They are not the Platonic solids themselves. They're just the shapes that the Platonic are represented by the Platonic solids. Aunt Jer, I think to connect spiritually with the physical structure, you either have to use all 7 of the Dragon Balls or have a power level over 9,000. Or maybe Mega
Traditional
Circle.
shapes are just approximations derived from the flower of life, a geometric pattern.
Right. He introduces his own set of shapes, names like the Tetryon, Hunon, and Aban. These forms are supposedly more reflective of the universe's true geometry, focusing on natural curvatures in all actions and reactions.
And then there's that concept of wave conjugations. The idea suggests that dynamic interactions between his fundamental shape.
No. First of all, while wave could be a noun, so you could be a noun. Yes, wave could be a noun. And if it's a noun, you wouldn't conjugate it, you would decline it in Latin. But if you mean like wave, like just wave your hand, that would be a verb and you could conjugate that. But the type of waves he's talking about, you don't conjugate.
Shapes create matter and energy as we know them.
The centerpiece of his theory is something called the linchpin.
All right, so let me take a few seconds out here. I would like to thank everyone for helping me to get to 256 subscribers. Hopefully we can get to 512 as soon as we can get it, and the 3,000 watch hours. And remember to like, comment, and subscribe.
The shape, Howard says, acts as a universal connector. He even ties it to the phenomenon like Saturn's hexagonal North Pole. So now we have the application and implication. Now, Howard's theories aren't just academic. He's proposing
Howard's theories aren't just academic. Isn't the aren't just doing a lot of lifting there?
real-world application like tangible flight. It's a patent technology where objects fly around their center of mass using unique propeller arrangements.
He also has a propulsion system that uses the explosive force of vaporized water. He believes this can surpass.
No, he does not.
Traditional weaponry and even be used for space exploration.
And then there's the Howard comma, which he calls a universal error correcting code. According to him, this could stabilize quantum states, enabling faster than light communication, holographic data storage, and space-time manipulation. And I think, totally believe that we're already manipulating that with like.
And if he found a blue box that said police public call box, he'd be able to travel back and forth in time.
Time travel. I totally believe that there are individuals that have gone to the future and they totally know things that are going on. We got somebody commenting. Let's see here. So it's Indrid Cold, and they say Terrence Howard. Hey, I know now who you're talking about. Great comedian, dumb as the duck, but great comedian. Leave science to educated people, please. And Earth is not flat. Sorry, no one said the Earth is flat.
Wait, these guys are flat earthers? I mean, that may put them at odds with Terrence Howard, because Howard does actually say the Earth is round.
Again, we're living in a world where people like yourself that probably the description that you're trying to put for Howard fits you more than it would him. At least he's doing something to try to break free from this enslavement of the world that we're living in and the lack of true information. We've been
Save us from the tyranny of basic math.
lied to about everything. And we're now finally.
We've been lied to about everything? So you're telling me they actually do have the answer to P versus NP, and you can prove it? I'd love to see that one.
Starting to step out.
You're free to, continue believing in what you believe in, but for those of us and others,
it's not called believing when you're actually right. That's called knowing.
Like us who would like to know more, this is why we're here.
Right.
We're not here to spout out the traditional, du jour.
You're right. And, as far as he's not even a comedian, he's an actor, so you got that wrong. And leave science to the educated people. would that be educated people that are being paid for by certain lobby groups that want to enforce certain things so that they could get their way? Is that the kind of educated people that you're talking about? Because that is the world of science that we live in. That is the world that we're living throughout. Archaeologists, all the systems are paid by lobbyists and people.
You know, the problem with being a shill for big math is that there are a lot of people who are really good at math, and you have to watch what currency they're paying you in. Because sometimes they'll give you a currency that is only pennies.
That want to push their agenda on the world and keep us dumb as you think Howard is. But again, you're entitled to your opinion.
This is something I don't like to call him personally. I don't get the impression Terrence Howard is dumb. I get the impression he just doesn't know what he's talking about, and possibly that he's having some sort of mental health episode.
Why? Like to get Howard?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was there. I mean, we're moving on.
Oh, yeah, but that common stayed.
No, I said just take it off of the.
No, it's
Oh,
fine.
you're going to keep it there?
Yeah.
So segment 4 is criticism and controversy. It's worth noting that Howard's ideas face significant skepticism.
Yeah,
like Ingrid.
I can't imagine why anyone who said the sun poops out planets would have his ideas face significant skepticism when we all know, if we've at least taken an Earth-space science class in our high school, which we should have had that, or physics, know that's not how planets are formed. To be fair, it's a lot more complex than I could describe it, but it's nowhere near what he describes it as.
Cold, yeah.
Critics say his theories lack scientific rigor and haven't been validated through peer-reviewed research.
Yeah, and peer review, if you all really understood what peer review is all about, again, people that pay money to get their review in certain books or front line, but they aren't worth the paper they're written on, because it all depends. Say money walks BS. What's that also? Money talks BS walks or something like that. We are living in a world of bullies, like the country that we are living on right now. Bullies. They've bullied their way throughout the world, having 800 military bases throughout, forcing their way, taking things from other people, making them theirs, even though it doesn't belong to them. And it goes on in cycles.
And painting themselves as the benevolent
freedom fighters, and
of the world.
and it's all a lie. And even in acting career, his scientific pursuits have created tension. Fellow actors have reportedly labeled him crazy for some of his more outlandish claims. And again, he's an actor.
And honestly, if we had a better mental health system in America, and he had fewer yes men around him, I have a feeling his teriology grift probably would have disappeared a while ago.
Something admirable about his courage. He's willing to stand by his ideas, despite ridicule, and continue exploring uncharted territory.
So one thing we can't overlook is how Howard's religious upbringing influences science. He doesn't separate the spiritual from the scientific. You really can't, because true spirituality and science pretty much have the same thing. Now, eliminating the dogma.
True spirituality and science often have the same thing. People can be spiritual and can be rational up to a point, because at some point spirituality just isn't rational. And most spiritual people are okay with that, but they are not the same thing.
And although some scientists do have dogma, as we've seen, they aren't willing to alter their way of thinking, because then it makes them look bad. All these years of research, and you mean that, oh my God, I'm wrong, that kind of thing. He doesn't separate the spiritual from the...
Listen, no matter how many times I might wish it otherwise, bubble sort, when implemented correctly, is always going to have a runtime complexity of n squared, in both the best case and worst case scenarios.
Scientific. Instead, he sees quantum physics as a framework for understanding the divine.
And that is a bold stance in a world where science and spirituality are often treated as opposing forces. It's clear that his religious experiences, both inspiring and traumatic, shaped his worldview.
And same thing with Billy. Billy's had, he had a rough childhood as well. And, he was raised Christian. And I mean,
can we leave Billy Carson out of this, please? At least Billy Carson is, and I'm going to put it this way, despite how weird it sounds, an honest grifter.
It's crazy. And maybe that's what makes teriology so compelling. it's not just about rethinking geometry or energy. It's about finding deeper meaning. And I find that human beings are afraid of finding deeper meaning. They want the simpleton. Once upon a time, God created the heavens and the earth in 7 days, blah, blah, blah. The simpleton approach, which doesn't give you much answers to our questions.
So the segment is called The Future of Teriology, segment 6.
Right.
So what's next for Terrence Howard? He's advocating for more collaboration with universities and researchers to test his theories. He even went to like some of these HBS.
Collaborating with more universities? What universities has he worked with? I mean, he got an honorary degree in humanities from the University of South Carolina. He didn't go to the university he claims he went to because the degree he claims he tried to get wasn't offered because they stopped offering it before he went there. And unfortunately, I have seen his appearance at the Oxford Student Union, and apparently the last time I saw him, he was still talking about some type of technology that could cure cancer that he's never going to be able to make. Although if he could make it, that would be great, and I will happily admit I'm wrong then.
HSBCUs, black colleges, to present them with his findings.
So that they would go.
So that they would be innovative and have the tools. Because
I actually didn't, but he probably does, and those are also a fractal representation in his image there.
I do believe that the African people and from that continent, that they were the innovators and that they were the people who got these breakthroughs.
Right.
They were the inventors.
Yeah.
They were the ones that knew about this. So it's almost like it's in their DNA.
Right.
But they rejected him.
Because unfortunately
they don't want to lose out on their funding.
Yeah, their funding. Unfortunately, people have become sellouts to a system that has lied to them, but they're still believing these lies. They're too afraid to venture out to like go, no, wait a minute, this just doesn't sound right. There's got to be more to this than we're being told. People are just lazy. They're afraid. They just don't want answers.
Some people call some of what African Americans eat today as part of their soul food diet. That it's part of the family, traditions and stuff.
Okay, this is not something I want to touch with a 10-foot pole because this touches on real social issues in a way that's kind of weird and can be addressed more sensitively by someone else.
Streets and pulled out rail and all that stuff, and it's like, okay, wait, we had a system and they yanked it out.
And a lot
of replaced it with the car.
And horse and buggy, of course. It's just, I just wish that people would remove the veil. The evidence is right there, right in front of the very eyes. I don't know, is it laziness? I don't know. So we have to talk about the challenges Howard has faced. The scientific community has been pretty dismissive of teriology, citing a lack of experimental proof. And they'll always do that because there are people.
No, they're not dismissive of it. They've outright rejected of it because it's just wrong. And the problem here isn't that Terrence Howard wants this to be a scientific thing. He wants us to think he's a brilliant mathematician. And he's got a long way to go before he's any type of mathematician. He's got to start by learning basic math. It would also help if he would learn the laws of exponents so he can stop being impressed by the square root of 2 doing the loop he thinks it does.
On the top that don't want these truths to come out.
And they benefit from not having it.
Of course, big oil. I mean, my gosh,
And Howard's personal life hasn't been without its controversies.
How does big oil benefit from anything you're talking about? Even if Howard's propulsion system were feasible, and it isn't, that would not help big oil. That would cut into their profits.
Conflicts on the set, struggles in his relationships. He's had his fair share of ups and downs. What do you think?
I think he is too, and there are a lot of things I want to do now that it's coming up on Christmas break, and I actually have some time to do things that aren't just assignments and work.
How do you think all this has shaped his theories?
Well, I think it's given him resilience. He's someone who's clearly passionate about finding truth, even if the world isn't ready to listen.
That is a great point. And here's a quote from Terrence. Every great idea starts as a joke, but the universe doesn't laugh. It listens. Powerful, isn't it?
It really is. Whether or not you agree with him, you can't deny his determination.
Before we wrap up, let's touch on how Howard's spiritual beliefs tie into his scientific beliefs. Growing up with both Christian and Muslim influences, he developed a unique perspective on faith and science.
He believes that quantum physics is the bridge between the physical and the spiritual. For him,
A lot of people believe this. It doesn't mean it's correct.
science isn't just about equations, it's about understanding the
And I really wish he weren't trying to misuse a concept from chemistry in mathematics, where he thinks that the number of terms on equation have to be equal or something. Because I don't know where he got the 1 times 1 equals 2 thing. I think he's thinking of how it works in chemistry, where you have to have a balanced number of molecules. All the molecules have to add up. Sorry, not molecules. All the atoms on each side have to add up properly.
the divine structure of the universe, a living universe.
Mark, do you think science and spirituality can coexist, or are they meant to be separate?
I think they complement each other. What about you?
I agree, and it's fascinating to see someone like Howard trying to bring those worlds together.
So, what do we take away from all of this? Terrence Howard's story reminds us that progress often comes from questioning what we think we know.
Exactly. Whether or not teleology changes the world, it does challenge us to think differently, and that's always a good thing.
You know, I look at where we are right now as a species. We think we're advanced. We literally think because we walk around with some little smartphones and we got computers, and now we're beginning to dabble with artificial intelligence, which I believe artificial intelligence has been around before. I believe that a lot of the things that we have been introduced to have been slowly, like toys in a toy box, and slowly bring these toys out to the kids. But those toys have been in a toy box. We had a reset. I believe that we've had several resets, and every time we get too smart for our bridges, the powers to be, not just a God, because I believe there are many, many gods, just tear it all down. I mean, that's evident by the mud floods that we have seen that are.
Oh, wait. And someone just mentioned Roger Mud Fossil, so I did not even know they were going to go to the mud floods.
Their evidence.
All right, so let's take a short break from this particular insanity here, and to remind everyone that we have hit 256 subscribers. The next milestone is 512, so please remember to like, comment, and subscribe.
Written, in our timeline, I believe by the structures of the past that we cannot duplicate now if our lives depended on it. We can't. There's just no way. None of these. You look at the houses they build now, the buildings they build. It's a joke compared to the buildings, the old buildings, all the monuments, like the White House and all these like really impressive cathedrals and stuff that there's no way with the limited amount of population that we had in the 1800s, there's no way. We were starving. We were in a depression. There was war. But what kind of money did we have? What kind of things did we have to build these things? There's just no way. We didn't build them. So I believe that a lot of the stuff that Terrence is talking about is he's tapped in to something. And I believe that those in Hollywood have some sort of knowledge that the average Joe doesn't have. They're introduced to certain secret societies and things like that, and they've given this to him, and he's run with it, and he's trying to put it forth, kind of like feeling the ground to see how people would react, because all the things that he's talked about, that, those flying drone type of things and the linchpin and all that stuff that prior civilizations had,
Sure.
completely. It really, I don't want to say frustrates me, but to hear people talk down on things that they have no clue about, they don't understand. They talk about the science, but I'm sure that this person, Indrid, has no clue, because when you just present a critique without giving the basis for it, that just makes me understand that you know nothing yourself, and you just don't agree with it, so you're going to make fun of it. The same thing with Becca and Eamon. All the people are criticizing them and thinking that their meditation and their positive thinking is woo, you know, which is not. I mean, the so-called woo-woo was been around before all this other stuff. Big Pharma is only what 150 years or something. Yeah, I mean, there were barely any medication. I mean, there was like an antibiotic, you know, there was like 2 or 3, and all of a sudden there's like this boom of medicine that the side effects are worse than the actual disease.
I mean, I remember hearing about like in the late in the 1920s
Mm-hmm.
that these people that were commissioned by the government were traveling all over to hospitals and to different medical facilities and healing centers. And because back in the day, it was not uncommon to have like people going to these hot springs and these baths and, you know, like going to these sanitariums or something,
Mm-hmm.
you know, to get healing
Right.
and stuff. I mean, that was like common. I mean, even here, over here in Arizona,
Mm-hmm.
at that inn that's all closed now, off
Mhm.
of Apache, they have these hot springs there that people would go and pay money to revitalize their bodies and stuff. And I think these people that were commissioned by the federal government to promote what is it, allopathic
Yeah.
methods of using
Healing, yeah.
using drugs, using compounds and things, that they were like telling the people that were doing the other, you can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
It's your time is done. Your
Yeah.
holistic healing moment is over.
Yeah.
We're the new kids on town. We're the new
We're
kids on the
taking
block.
over.
We're taking over. We're gonna make everything that you think is like legit illegitimate.
Right. They even tried taking away vitamins and nutraceuticals and things of that nature. But what was the real first medicines that we have? It was all herbal. I mean, grandmothers always had these remedies, and boy, did they work. You know, you have the shamans that introduce all sorts of different.
You know, I have a book not far from me that has more to do with family history called Powwow in Pennsylvania Dutch Country. It has a lot of folk remedies, some magical practices as well, because it was a form of esoteric practice. But I wouldn't say everything in there works. However, it is an interesting history. Yeah.
Potion
No, I'll just
in the
have
next
to.
5 years,
about
artificially in a lab. It's not the. They called it Glicken.
like
Geekin.
yeah, glycan.
Yeah, because people went to go see both movies and they both did not disappoint.
No.
I mean, Gladiator on Saturday was an epic film. It was the cinematography in it is
Totally.
incredible. It's like Hollywood at its best.
Yeah, and the actors were amazing. The storyline was dramatic. We had Denzel Washington. What was that other guy who's played the son of the original Gladiator? I forgot his name, but really good actors, really good plot, cinematography, fantastic. I can give it a 10 out of 10. For sure.
Yeah, it's one of those movies that I'll go down in history for sure. It's one of the best movies. One of the best ancient civilization movies I've ever seen.
Totally.
You know, it was just the scene set in Rome, ancient Rome, the depictions of the culture of the people, the big massive wide shots, you know, that are so iconic to making movies in Hollywood. Just how they show the Colosseum. And, I mean, there were sharks in the Colosseum. I mean, they filled it up with water, and I was like, it's pretty insane.
As I was watching, I couldn't help but notice the architectural in the day. You know,
Yeah.
it's like I'm thinking
Old world.
they couldn't have built that. There's just no way. They didn't have the machinery. They didn't have, you know, the tools. They didn't have the whereabouts. They kind of inherited it, you know, from the old world, from the other civilization. And then there was Wicked, musical.
Wicked. Wow.
Yeah.
What
Are
a,
we just talking about
what
our
a
musical?
masterpiece of a movie that was. That's like a storytelling at its finest.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the weaving of that story, interlocking it with the Wizard of Oz, and how, you know, I mean, people have seen the Broadway show, you know, 12 years ago or whatever, 20, how many years ago, Wicked made its run on the Broadway scene, and it was really.
Oh, I was just talking about a Pennsylvania Dutch practice that has to do with something my family did.
Really popular. I wish I would have seen it, but I mean, the way they showed it was like the interaction, the way that the Wicked Witch was before the Wizard of Oz, and how they made her out to be evil
Yeah.
when she really and there was like one part where you were really touched with the animals and stuff. I mean,
yeah, the animals had a voice during that time, and the system deemed it that they weren't going to allow the animals to speak anymore. The animals even were professors. And I truly believe, I'm very connected to animals in the wild. I mean, I love watching Instagram videos of, animals that have been helped by humans, they've been hurt, and then they build this tremendous bond. I truly believe that there's been a missing link in the storyline in the animal kingdom. And I believe that we were very well connected. We understood them. They understood us. There was a language spoken. And the movie showed that. And that part really touched me. I'm really, I don't know, there's a part of me that's, and I guess it's my spiritual side, that sees things very different from how typical humans see it.
There was one scene that really touched me, and that was the scene in which Elphaba, the Green Witch, she shows up at this party, and she's like the outsider because she's green, right? She doesn't look like everyone else,
right?
And she's also black, right? Because and that's the underlying also that we know about.
Right.
And basically, she starts doing her own thing.
Yeah.
And the character that
The guy on the left there does look like he would try to hug a bear.
that Ariana plays, Glinda, or Galinda.
Galinda.
Yeah. She decides that she's
Why are we
going
talking about Wicked?
to be your friend, and then she just starts doing the moves with her on the floor, and it was really touching.
Yeah. And I can relate with that part too, because growing up, I never.
Yeah, that's one of the weird things about computer science, because when I was younger, I wasn't all that interested in math and didn't think I was very good at it. But it turns out I just had some bad teachers and didn't know how I learned math yet. It wasn't until I got to the first associate's degree I went to, where I went through a couple courses, when I realized it's like, oh, hey, I'm actually good at certain types of math. And unsurprisingly, it's some very basic discrete math, especially the type that's used in computer science, I'm really good at. And it's the type you'll learn in the first couple of courses you take in like a high school computer science class, where you don't even realize you're learning math because you think it's not.
I never related with anybody, because I always used to say, I'm not from this planet. The way people did things, I just didn't relate with them at all. So that part of the scene also was very touching.
The exciting thing is that the movie has a sequel.
Yeah.
So they said to be continued.
Yeah.
So it's going to be pretty amazing, how they weave that whole story into another movie.
Definitely.
Ariana did a great job.
She did.
Cynthia Erivo did a great job.
Yeah, I was going to say, I actually had some time after I got the other stuff to go through. It's like, and going through some of the stuff, it's like I was really making it harder than it needed to be.
I mean, the acting, I think there should be Oscar nominations in that movie for either one of them. I mean,
go ahead and come on in. Anyone's welcome.
Supporting actress, best lead actress, in a movie. I mean, it was,
And then the magic, the magic and the whole. I've always loved movies that deal with magic. It's true. We've lost that ability because we've lost the ability to dream. We've been placed.
No, we have the ability to dream still.
On this concrete world, not realizing that within the space, within that black hole, within the space, within the atom, there's so much more.
Yeah.
Did you just say there was a black hole in the atom? Because that is incorrect.
That we're not.
Where they say there's junk DNA, where they say there's nothingness, that's where everything resides. Just because
the term junk DNA has been replaced with non-coding DNA, but leave this one to the biologists, because, well, I have a mild interest in biology. It's just not my area.
Because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there.
It's like in your dreams. When you dream at night, it feels real. And that's because it is. Because you're entering other realms. While your body in this realm is resting, your soul goes elsewhere. And there's going to be a lot coming out regarding that.
My soul goes elsewhere? Well, I mean, dreams have been a common source of mysticism for centuries. I personally don't believe this, but if you do, I'm not going to correct you on it.
Dream world and what it really means, what you really do when you're in that dream state. A lot of things that are going to be revealed. The world as we knew it will no longer. And I'm very confident we're going to see so many things that are leave people a little perturbed. Those that are used to things being a certain way. It's time to be flexible. It's time to dream. It's time to realize that magic is real. And that we're made for much more.
Yes.
Much more. Well, guys, hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down below. Since I had one comment, and that comment was, pretty rude. But
what are you going to expect?
Yeah.
Negativity seems to be pervasive on online spaces.
Yeah.
Okay, this I actually agree with. Negativity is pervasive in online spaces. But he was also right. You were trying to present Terrence Howard as some genius challenging science, and Terrence Howard just isn't really challenging science. To challenge science, you have to actually understand it. You also suggested there was like some big conspiracy where people are trying to keep you from learning real things like, I don't know, that pi is a whole number. And I think what Terrence Howard meant when he said that is that pi has an exact value, which of course it does. The exact value of pi is pi. But that doesn't mean pi is a whole number unless you're using some sort of weird base numbering system where, I don't know, the base is pi.
For some reason.
The world of darkness seems to delve in the inner spaces. But
The World of Darkness is a series of games that were published by White Wolf, which is an unfortunate name. They did change it, in the 1990s that features Vampire the Masquerade, Werewolf the Apocalypse, Wraith the Oblivion, Mage the Ascension, and Changeling the Dreamin'. They also added some historical settings like Vampire the Dark Ages, Werewolf the Wild West, The Sorcerer's Crusade, Wraith the Great War, and I think there was a Victorian Changeling one. It has nothing to do with whatever you're talking about.
We can't let people like that govern because, I think Terrence really does deserve, for somebody who can make money as an actor. He's a great actor. He decided to do this to his own detriment.
I'm not denying that he has acting talent. But being an actor doesn't make you a good scientist.
Made fun of. But, when you know truth in your heart, you can't care what other people think.
Right.
That's one.
The problem is you can believe something to be true and just be wrong. That's where Terrence Howard is.
All right, guys, we appreciate you tuning in. Thank you so much. We'll see you next Friday. I'm trying to think. Somebody asked us to do a show on the Menendez brother.
Yeah.
And
sure.
I don't know if that would be a full show, but I was thinking about maybe putting together a show on them and equating it to a lot of the material, so let's say the individuals that have been given too much in life, and like I see a lot of the way the detransitioners behave, and I think that there were.
Oh, now I know why this caught my attention. Because the word detransitioners was in the title. And I was thinking something totally different when they said detransitioners. But apparently it had nothing to do with trans people. It's people who are detransitioning from accepting reality to believing whatever they want to believe instead.
Were given everything by their parents and allowed to transition, and all of a sudden now they're calling their parents evil or trying to blame their parents, and it's like, but you drove your parents crazy. You like wouldn't let up, let up, and Yeah, so I don't know. We'll see. But if not, I want to put something together regarding the science behind meditation and positive thinking and all that.
I don't think you would be capable of doing that.
I think that would be a good show.
Yeah, I mean that I forgot that word that escapes me when children get more than they don't appreciate.
Entitlement.
Yeah, entitlement.
Yeah.
And I, watching the documentary on the Menendez brothers that was out on Netflix, I think it was, I just saw a couple of guys that were very entitled and did the wrong thing. I mean, they did something that is unconscionable to do to your parent. No matter what your parent may have subjected you to, there's no reason that should have taken place.
Exactly.
And I think, like we have, like with, we were talking about.
I think most of us at the time this particular live stream was done are more concerned about an entirely different act of violence that was committed against a CEO. But we don't need to go into that here because this isn't right for this channel.
Detransitioners and stuff. And there's this one, Ellie, that has decided that she's going to become a voice. And she was trying to raise money to go to the recent
Also, now you're talking about trans people.
Supreme Court hearing on transgender issues and stuff with regards to children and transition.
Wait, you wanted to talk about trans people and you did all this stuff about Terrence Howard. Why?
And all that, and the use of medications and all that. So she, basically ran over her parents in the sense of, not physically, but, emotionally and just online.
Okay, so trans people are metaphorically running over their parents by transitioning. Have you thought about this before saying it?
Just saying that, they are leftist and that they don't believe the same way that, she does, and that she realizes that she was being silenced, and, but it's like this kid, this Ellie kid, who literally you couldn't have told that younger Ellie or Abel or who was
the other one?
Chloe,
yeah.
or any of them not to transition, not to take this.
Well, first of all, to any trans people watching this, don't listen to these nitwits. Only you can decide what is right for you. You should understand the effects of HRT before going on to it. You should be absolutely certain you are trans before going on HRT. But you also shouldn't let yourself be held back by the relatively small number of transition horror stories that detransitioners tell. Most people are satisfied with transition. And the ones that aren't, it's not that they want to detransition, it's just that things didn't quite go the way they wanted them to. And it's generally they're happier as they are now. The WPATH standards are actually designed to make sure that people are serious before they go on hormones. And it's really important to understand that the WPATH standards don't let transgender teenagers have hormones until a certain age, and they can't have surgery under the WPATH standards until they are legally an adult in most cases. But people like this aren't going to tell you that, so you need to go to the WPATH website and look up the standards for yourself.
Courtney,
this approach to what they wanted to do with their lives and stuff. You couldn't have told them not to. The parents, they thought they were being, helpful and helping, because the kid's telling them, "I'm going to die," if I don't get what I want.
Yeah, but that's what happens when entitlement, and then you get, individuals that cannot take responsibility for their actions, and they have to blame everybody.
And what about the damage you're doing right now? Are you going to take responsibility for that?
And everything.
I mean, the Menendez brothers went partying after the whole thing. They went and got
What do the Menendez brothers have to do with trans people? Does anyone understand that one? I don't even know what this has to do with what their topic was about.
a bunch of clothes
Oh,
over
yeah.
on Rodeo Drive. They bought all kinds of stuff, without a heart to thinking, what in the world
Yeah.
has happened here?
And then they created in their minds a scenario that their parents were being evil to them. And that was a lie. The parents were like very loving, very giving,
Right.
But that's the key. Sometimes no is an important word. And if you're a parent, limiting what you give your kids, because if you give them everything they want, you're going to have troubles on your hands for
Yeah.
sure. There's a fine line. No is a important.
Yeah.
Well, there's a fine line between the numerator and the denominator, but only a fraction of people will understand that.
Very important. All right, guys, thank you so much for
Yes.
tuning in. So we'll catch you next week. Have a great weekend. We love you, but remember to always love yourselves too. Good night.
All right, well, I'm going to make sure I never see those people again. Because that was just awful. All right, so if you want to look it up, apparently it's called the Transition Radio Show. I don't know why it's called that. I don't think it has anything to do with trans people, really. But I didn't do much research on them, other than the fact that they have 6K subscribers. But let's be honest here. Terrence Howard is mostly a circus sideshow at this point. He wants us to believe he has these things that are going to change the world. If he really had them, he would be using them by now. The fact is, his drones use propellers. They're not going to do anything in space. He doesn't understand physics. And he needs to go back to school on some things because there is nothing wrong with questioning science. There's nothing wrong with investigating math concepts that you don't understand. But you have to actually learn the basics first. And Terrence Howard wants to skip the step of learning the basics because he thinks he's smarter than people who actually have gone through all that and have actually understood why the square root of 2 is an irrational number, or taken the time to actually learn things like use substitution, which is more advanced. I know people want to believe Terrence Howard is a genius. He may be, but he's not correct about anything he's said in the past few months. All right. Well, again, I would like to thank everyone for helping me get this far. Hopefully we'll be here in a little bit with a 512 subscribers stream after I apply for monetization. And now I can't speak. Apply for monetization. And after 3 hours, and after getting 3,000 hour. All right, I think it's time for me to log off for tonight. Go out and write some code. Purple was here before. She came through about halfway in. Yes, we should do that, but it'll have to be... I think we both are going to be busy at least from, January till about June. But if you want to use my email address, you can email me. All right. Oh, yeah, just either leave a message to me or email me on the YouTube link. All right, everyone. Go out and write some code. And be sure to watch Maya's show on Sundays called Bad Science Sunday.
Didn't mean to do that. You think eventually I'm going to learn that I need to hit the end stream button. All right, well, I have one more final to take tomorrow. It's probably not going to go well, but maybe I'll pull something off because I did it in Calc 1.